Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to the next video in this tutorial. And for those of you following along, or not, in the previous video we covered how objects are created and referenced in memory from their respective instances and variable names. We also used the if-else statements and while loops to control the flow of our program. And then we combined that with an instance of the scanner class that we created after we had imported it from the java.util package. And finally, we put that together to create a program that tested user input to see if it was a palindrome. So in this exercise, we're going to follow a similar path, and we're going to once again control our program with if-else statements and while loops. And then we're going to continue to take user input with an instance of the scanner class again. But this time we're also going to add another class, the random class, which is also part of the java.util package. And we're going to put it all together to create a little number guessing game. So the first thing I want to do is go into Eclipse and create a new project, and we'll just call this number guessing game. And then inside our source folder we're going to create a new file, and we'll just call this simply guessing game.java. Put a little comment at the top. This will create a random number between a certain range and ask the user to guess the value. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is make our class declaration. So public class guessing game. And then our main method, so public static void main string args. And now we know we're going to need to take user input. We'll create a scanner object called scan, new scanner. And don't forget to put in the system.in because we want to take user input from the keyboard. And I'm going to hold off on importing it. So now we want to create a random number. How would we do that? Well, if you're unsure, we can open up to Google and we can type in Java random. And the first result here is actually from Oracle's own website. And we can click that and it brings us to the Java APIs. And we can see there's a class called random inside of the package java.util. And here we get a little description of what it does. An instance of this class is used to generate a stream of pseudo-random numbers. Well, that sounds promising to what we want. So if we scroll down a little bit, we have this section called Constructor Summary. And these are the two constructors that we can use to create a new object. And here we have the default constructor. It takes no parameters. And here we have a more specialized one that takes a parameter of type long. And then there's this whole section on methods, and it lists all of the possible methods that are available to this class. And if we were to actually click one of them, let's say next int, we can go down and get a lot more information about it. Returns the next pseudo-random uniformly distributed integer value. So let's go back to Eclipse, and we know we're going to use the random class. So we'll type random, and it's going to generate a random number. So we'll call this generator equals new random. And let me just bring this side by side. And we'll go back up. And you can see here we're using this default constructor. So I'll put my semicolon at the end. And now we need to import these. So if I just highlight over it, it says I need to import random from the java.util package. And I can do that manually for each, or I can use a little shortcut in Eclipse and do Control-Shift-O, which automatically brings in all of the missing imports that I need. So the next thing I'll do is take the instance of our random generator, and I'll hit period to invoke a method. And we get this list out inside of Eclipse of all of these methods. And if I go down to next int, it says the same thing that this had said over here. and I'll just compare them side by side so you can see this reflects on this right here. So by using Google and then exploring the APIs, we can also use Eclipse and get a bigger picture of what's going on inside each class that we use. So now you know how to find classes that you might want to use for certain things. And the next thing we want to do is start to build this program. So to do that, we're going to say, well, we want to set a limit on the range for this. So we'll say, for this example, we'll use any numbers from 1 to 10. So we'll make a final int called max, and in all caps because it's a final. We'll specify it to 10. And now we're going to want some other integers, one for answer and one for guess. And we'll make a string called another. We'll initially set that to y. We have our scanner object, and we just need a boolean called flag. And another one, well, we'll set this one to false. And I just want to demonstrate some use of the boolean. Boolean another flag equals true. Okay, so now we're going to open up with our while loop, which we used the last time, and now we're going to specify another flag, and since we initialized that to being true, this is true, so now this code, whatever we put in here, will run, as long as another flag is equal to true. So the first thing we want to do is generate our random number, and we're going to do that by taking one of our integer values here, answer, and we'll assign it using the generator instance, and we'll invoke the next int. But for this we want to specify what our integer range is. So we're going to invoke that with the parameter max and then plus 1. And the reason we do that is because, as we had learned with arrays, we're going to generate any number from 0 to 9 with this. So we want people to guess from 1 to 10. So we can simply just take this and shift from the range 0 to 9 and makes it 1 to 10 inclusive. So if this generates a number that's 0, it's going to add 1 to it, and this way you get 1. And if it generates a 9, it'll actually be turned to 10. And anything in between, it'll just get added 1. So now we can do system.out.println and ask, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and plus max can you guess what it is? And here again we used the max value. I could have specified 10 here, but I didn't. And the reason I didn't is because what happens if we decide later on that we want to change this max value up here? Maybe we want to make them guess from 0 to 100, or 1 to 100 rather. Well, by just changing this to 100, now we've changed it here, and we've changed it here in one quick command. But if we had hard-coded all of this, we would have to go here and change it to 10, and then we would have to go into this line and change it, from 10 to 100. And if we started using this maybe 5, 6, or 10 times in our code, we would have to go to each and every line where we used the value 10 and change it. So rather than doing that, you can just specify a value once and then use that variable. So now we're going to set our flag equal to false, which it already is, but we have to do it each time we loop through this anyway, and we'll see why in a minute. And now we're going to start another while loop, and this time we're going to say not flag. So I'm only doing this to really show you the use of this negation symbol or the not symbol. So right now flag is set to false. So while false, but because we have this negation or the not symbol in front of it, it's saying while not false, so that changes that to true. Guess equal scan next int. And now we want to say if the guess is equal to the answer, and this is an assignment, this is comparison, if you remember from earlier. So now if guess and answer are the same, system.out.println, you guessed correctly. Good job. And now we can set our flag equal to true. And so if they guessed correctly, it's going to print out this statement, set flag to true. And once we get to the end of this while loop, it's going to come back up. And since this is true, it's going to say while not true. So that makes it false. And we're going to break out of this inner while loop. And I'll just make a little comment so that I know where I am in my code. Okay, so we have if they guessed correctly, but what happens if they didn't guess correctly? So we'll say if they didn't guess correctly or else, we'll do sys-o, control space for the shortcut, and I'll say that is not correct, sorry, try again. And so we want this to keep looping until they guess the right one. So in this case, we're not going to change the flag, and the flag stays the same, and it keeps looping through. So the only time we want to change that flag and break out of this while loop is once they correctly guess it. So now we're going to get out of this while loop, and then that assumes that they just got the correct number. So let's just give ourselves one line of room to break down, and then we'll ask them, would you like to play again? And this is similar to what we did in the last palindrome game that we made. But in this case, we're going to change it up a little bit because we're using these flags. So now we're going to say another is now going to be equal to whatever is scanned from the next input. And we'll say if another equals ignore case y, I'm sorry, I missed a parenthesis there. If they do, I'm sorry, actually, that's not logical. So if another is equal to this, is equal to true, then we'll say another flag, which is the one that controls this outer loop, remains true. And if it doesn't, now we want to say another flag equals false. And now another flag was initially set to true, and this one was false, and we're changing them depending on whether the user gets the guess correctly, and then here if they would like to continue playing the game. So this should break out of our outer loop. And I spelled that incorrectly. And now if I save this, and we'll go right click and run as a Java application. It says, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. Can you guess what it is? Well, we'll try 1. It's not correct, so I'll try 2. Nope. 3. I got it. And now it asks if we want to try another game. And sorry about that little hiccup. I had a phone call. Well, I think I'm actually going to stop there, and we'll just pick up the next time. So check out the next video, and thanks for watching.